Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that affects all of us, every single day: the money in our bank accounts. What is it, really? And who's actually in charge?
You've probably seen this all over the internet, right? Especially from the crypto folks. The government is just printing money out of thin air and it's making you poorer. But what does that even mean? Is there any truth to it? Well, to really get to the bottom of it, we've got to ask a bigger question. What even is money? And to answer that, we need to take a quick trip back in time, see how we went from, trading goats to using digital cash. All right, let's jump right in. We have to start at the very, very beginning. Before we had money, we had bartering. A simple, straight-up trade of goods and services. And you can see the problem pretty quick, can't you? Imagine trying to buy a house with, 80 truckloads of bread. It's not going to work. Bartering is great for small stuff, but it just doesn't scale up. Humanity needed a better system. And that's where money comes in. It's what we call a medium of exchange. Basically, it's just an instrument, a tool that everyone agrees has value. So now, our baker, he can sell his bread for some cash and then use that cash to buy his house. Easy, right? Problem solved.
Okay, but wait, there's another piece to this puzzle. For money to actually work in the long run, it also has to be a store of value. You have to be pretty sure that the dollar you earn today is still going to be worth something tomorrow or next year. It's got to hold its value over time. And for literally thousands of years, the answer to that problem was gold. Think about it. It's rare, it's super durable, you can divide it into smaller pieces, and pretty much everyone on Earth agrees it's beautiful and valuable. It was, for a long time, the perfect store of value. So how did this whole gold is money thing turn into a global system? Well, for centuries, that paper money in your pocket, it wasn't just paper. It was actually a promise. It was like a claim check for a little piece of real physical gold. This system was called the gold standard. And it's pretty simple, really. It just meant that for every dollar out there, there was a specific, corresponding amount of actual gold locked away in a government vault somewhere.
Yeah, think about that for a second. There was a time when you could literally walk into a bank with, say, $25 and walk out with an ounce of gold. And this is the crucial part. It meant the government couldn't just print money whenever it wanted. If they didn't have the gold to back it up, they couldn't create new money. Simple as that.
So for a really long time, our money was anchored to something physical, something tangible you could hold in your hand. But that system didn't last forever. In fact, everything was about to change.
Just look at this timeline here. You can see how the whole thing started to fall apart. First, during big wars, countries would kind of temporarily suspend it so they could print more money to fund their militaries. But then came the final nail in the coffin. In 1971, President Nixon officially cut the link between the US dollar and gold. That was it. The promise was broken.
And this was a massive, massive change. All of a sudden, money wasn't a claim check for gold anymore. It was basically an IOU from the government. Its value was no longer based on a shiny metal, but on one thing, and one thing only: trust.
And that brings us to what we now call fiat money. The word fiat is actually Latin for let it be done or by decree. So it's money because the government says it's money. And this gave governments a brand new superpower, the ability to create as much money as they want whenever they want. Okay, so this brings us right back to where we started, to that claim about printing money from thin air. How is it actually done today? Well, if you're picturing a giant printing press churning out stacks of cash, you can pretty much forget that. The reality is a lot more digital, and it happens with just a few keystrokes on a computer. It's wild when you think about it, but over 90% of all money, it's not physical. It only exists as digital entries in a bank's computer system. So creating new money, it's literally as simple as a central bank adding some zeros to an account.
So during a major crisis, think about the 2008 financial crash, or more recently, the COVID-19 pandemic, central banks create enormous sums of new money, trillions of dollars. And they do this by injecting that new digital cash into the commercial banking system to try and keep the whole economy from collapsing.
But of course, there's a consequence. When you have a whole lot more money in the system chasing the same amount of stuff, cars, houses, food, what happens? Prices go up. That's inflation. And it means that the cash you saved up, it buys a little bit less today than it did yesterday.
And this is the heart of the great debate we're seeing right now. It's a fundamental clash of ideas, a showdown between two totally different philosophies for what money should be.
Let's just break this down. On one side, you've got fiat currencies like the US dollar. The supply? It's basically unlimited, and it's controlled by a central authority. Its backing? Trust in the government. Then on the other side, you have something like Bitcoin. The supply? It's strictly limited, capped forever. Control? It's decentralized, run by a network of users. And its backing? Trust in mathematics and the computer code itself.
So here are the two core arguments. Supporters of the fiat system say that this flexibility, the ability to create new money, is an absolutely vital tool. It helps them fight off economic depressions and is managed by experts. But crypto supporters, they see it completely differently. They argue this power lets governments secretly devalue your savings through inflation, basically without your permission.
So, what's the big takeaway here? This whole debate is about so much more than just dollars versus Bitcoin. It's a really fundamental disagreement about control, about trust, and about what the very nature of money should be. It really leaves us at a crossroads, doesn't it? Should money be a flexible tool managed by experts to navigate crises, or should it be a rigid, predictable system governed by computer code that no single person can change? There are no easy answers here, but the path we choose is going to define our economic future.